Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about how politicians of the ruling party in Maharashtra are using vehicles for their personal security, which were actually meant for the protection of women in the state. We also talk about why Mumbai right now is facing worse air pollution than the national capital. But first, we talk about Himachal Pradesh. Yesterday, Congress leader Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu took oath as Himachal Pradesh's new chief minister. Sukhu has been a 4-time MLA from the Nadaun constituency and the head of the Congress's election committee in the state.
मैं सुखविंदर सिंह सुक्खू ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि मैं मेरी द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगा। मैं भारत की प्रभुता और अखंडता को अक्षुण्ण रखूंगा।
After the Congress High Command on Saturday named him the 15th Chief Minister of Himachal Pradesh, he thanked the Gandhi family for this opportunity.
आज मुझे खुशी इस बात की है कि आज मैं एक आम कार्यकर्ता से, आम परिवार से उठकर हिमाचल प्रदेश का मुख्यमंत्री बनने का मौका मुझे इस कांग्रेस पार्टी ने दिया, गांधी परिवार ने दिया। आज मैं अपनी खुशी का इजहार नहीं कर सकता। लेकिन अगर आप मेरी माता जी
Now, Sukhu's rise in the party has been quite rapid. He was appointed the chief of the state unit of the National Students Union of India, or NSUI, which is the student wing of the Congress, in 1989. He later became an MLA in 2003, got elected as a councillor twice, and also headed the state Congress committee. But he wasn't the only candidate that the party had in mind. There were several others in competition. In fact, it was Pratibha Singh, the wife of late Vibhadra Singh, the 6th-time chief minister of the state, who initially tried to stake claim to the post. In this segment, Indian Express's Amil Bhatnagar, who reports on Himachal politics, joins us on a call to talk about it. Amil, so could you begin by talking about how the Congress ended up picking Sukhu as the chief minister?
So, in the run-up to the elections, it was clear that Congress has multiple leadership problems. There are multiple CM aspirants, and Pratibha Singh, the HPCC chief, had earlier said that, they cannot declare a CM face because they might be heartburned. Once the results were declared, Pratibha Singh, wife of late Veerbhadra Singh, the 6th-time CM, was the first to stake claim to the throne, saying that Veerbhadra's legacy is unmissable, it cannot be ignored, and it has to be factored in while deciding the CM. Also in the run was Mukesh Agnihotri, a journalist turned politician. And he's an MLA from Haroli. He's also a very popular figure, has worked for the organization for several years. But winner in this entire CM race is Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu. He has been the longest serving Himachal Pradesh Congress Committee president for 6 years between 2013 and 2019. He's a non-controversial figure who does not have any allegations of corruption against him. He's a clean face, which is one of the biggest reasons why he has been selected as the CM face by the party high command. He is also a career party politician. He has worked on several organizational levels, right from NSUI to the state Congress committee. And also he has support of a large number of MLAs, which was crucial in the context of the results, because the idea was that they have to give it to someone in case, for example, if there's a fear of a breakaway faction, the person with the maximum number of MLAs will be the front runner in the entire CM race.
And now that he has been appointed, what has been the reaction of Pratibha Singh, who we know wanted this post?
Well, of course, things have not gone down very well for Holly Lodge, which is primarily Pratibha Singh and Vikramaditya Singh. There was a visible agitation in Pratibha Singh's body language after the press conference that was held, in which it was announced that the party high command will take a final decision on the CM-ship. Even while she was leaving Vidhan Sabha yesterday, I would say that there was less celebratory mood in the Pratibha camp. They were actually supporters of Veerbhadra who were raising slogans that the 7th time Holly Lodge should be given the responsibility, referring that as because Veerbhadra was CM 6 times, so the 7th time should also be from someone from Holly Lodge. But it has not gone down well, and there's always an apprehension of how this entire problem with the command at behest of Pratibha's family will play out. But at the moment, Vikramaditya and everyone is telling media that they don't have a problem with the decision. They are all in coordination and in sync with how the Congress is working.
And Amil, going forward, what are the kind of challenges that Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu is likely going to face?
So the thing is, the problem that everyone is foreseeing for Sukhwinder Singh Sukkhu is that he has been elected from a certain race. So obviously there are certain lobbies that are not happy with the decision. So for Sukhu, the biggest challenge is to pacify the party unit and make a structure and make a base for the next 5-year rule. Secondly, it's also they have made several promises. For example, old pension scheme, 1,500 to women between the age of 18 and 60, 1 lakh jobs in the very first state cabinet meeting. So these are promises that have got them through to the elections, and now their implementation is something that everyone will be looking for. And again, this is a state that votes out every party every alternate year. So any lack of implementation of these policies might not bear fruit for the party. And because Jairam Thakur was criticized as a weak CM, so there has to be a strict implementation of the promises made and a structure for the party that this is one leadership, this is the central leadership of the state, and everyone has to follow his command. And there cannot be any bickering. So yes, quelling the leftover rebellion will be an important challenge for Sukhu.
And is there anything that people in the state are expecting from the Congress, something that the BJP government could not deliver?
Well, for them, the biggest is OPS, and I think they will ride heavily on the OPS promise because old pension scheme is a marquee scheme that is going to impact lakhs of government employees here. And for them, they kept on claiming that the BJP government has ignored the welfare of government employees. So for them, it is incumbent upon the Congress party now to make policies and make sure that the government employees have certain schemes and policies with their interests primarily in mind, because that is the reason why they were voted into power and not BJP. And if they fail to do that, or if they fail to prepare policy structure for that, then Congress might also face the same brunt in the next election.
Before we move on to the next segment, just a quick note. Last month, we did a segment on the old pension scheme, where we explained the problems it causes both to the government and people in general. The link to it is in today's episode description. And next we talk about Maharashtra. Early this year, the Mumbai police purchased several hundred vehicles by using money collected under the Nirbhaya fund, which is supposed to be used for fighting crimes against women. But now, a lot of these vehicles are instead being used for the personal security of MLAs and MPs of the ruling Maharashtra government. That is the Eknath Shinde-led Shiv Sena faction. In this segment, Indian Express's Mohamad Thaver, who reported on the story, tells us more about it. Mohamad, so how many vehicles did the government end up buying this year using the Nirbhaya fund?
Yeah, so basically earlier this year, using the Nirbhaya fund, they purchased 220 Boleros. Then they purchased around 500 two-wheelers. And in addition to that, they purchased Ertigas. This purchase is important because as per the motor transport wing of the Mumbai police, which handles its vehicles, there hasn't been a purchase of police vehicles since at least 2019. So it was after 4 years that they purchased new vehicles.
And what exactly was the purpose behind this purchase?
So basically, the central government has allotted Nirbhaya funds by using which, state governments, etc., can use these funds to purchase things that will help them counter crimes against women. So that could include police vehicles, which will help them patrol more and, things like that. So this time around in March, when they actually got these vehicles and everything, this was meant to be used by police stations primarily to ensure that crimes against women are controlled. So the priority for these vehicles was to deal with crimes against women.
Yes, but now you've reported that a lot of these vehicles are not being used for that purpose. Instead, they're being used for the personal security of MLAs and MPs of the ruling state government. So talk about how that came to be.
Yeah, so, after these vehicles had been procured, so the 220 Boleros, majority of them had been distributed across 95 police stations in Mumbai. Depending upon how big a police station is, how sensitive its jurisdiction is, they were either given 1 or 2 Boleros. So this happened in June. The police stations got these vehicles, and mind you, some police stations really needed these vehicles because an inspector I spoke to said how of the 6 vehicles that a police station they had, 3 vehicles were not working. So they just had to work with 3 vehicles. And you've got to understand, for a police station, a vehicle, like everything from taking an arrested accused to the court patrolling. You dial 100, there's an emergency, a police van goes there. So police station requires, several such vehicles. So when these boleros came, one or two new boleros, and more importantly, new boleros, because a lot of the vehicles that these police stations had were old vehicles in need of repair kind of a thing. So they were, quite happy because they needed it. But unfortunately, what happened is within a matter of a few weeks, when the new government came in, they received an order from the Motor Transport Department that you need to send back these boleros. So around 47 of these boleros had been called back. In some cases, police stations that had been given 2 boleros were asked to return 1. In some cases, the only bolero given was asked to be returned. In fact, there was also an instance where an inspector refused to return the vehicle, saying that the situation at the police station was so bad because so many of their vehicles were already under repair that they just could not function without it. And when I spoke to him recently, he was telling me that they were told that these are going for VIP security, for the security of MLAs linked to the CM Eknath Shinde faction of the Shiv Sena. He said that I did feel that we will not get these vehicles back, and his fears did turn out to be true. So of the 47 vehicles that were taken back from police stations, over a period of time after police stations started calling them, say they thought initially that it would be taken for a week, but then weeks passed by, months passed by. So they kept, 17 of these vehicles were returned to police stations, some after weeks, some after a month or 2 months. But 30 vehicles, especially from sensitive police stations along the eastern suburbs of the city where the population is high, where as per data, crimes against women are much more, they surprisingly have not received these vehicles till date. So a lot of these police stations in the eastern suburbs have been checking with the Motor Transport Department, but there has been no update, and it's been 6 months now.
And so because of this, what kind of problems are these police stations facing?
So now, as a result of these vehicles not being there, like one cop I spoke to, he said that sometimes, in an emergency generally you may have enough vehicles, but there could be a point where there are 2 crimes that have been committed and you have to take an accused to the police stations. So in such situations, they have had to actually either procure a vehicle from another police station or even use a private vehicle. He said that on one occasion they had to use a private vehicle to take an accused to the court, which should definitely not happen. So because of the lack of these vehicles, it is left to the officers at the police station levels to do some jugaad, like they say, and ensure that somehow they have a vehicle, and which is a situation which should not have been happening, considering that these vehicles had been procured specifically for this purpose.
Okay, so you mentioned that some 47 boleros were taken away to give Y+ security to these politicians. So in that sense, how unusual is it for so many MLAs of a ruling party to enjoy such kind of security provisions?
It is in fact quite unusual. In fact, one officer that I was talking to, he was telling me that in his service of 25 years, it has never happened that a police station has had to send their vehicle for security of, MLAs. So the reason that this has happened actually is that generally in a state, apart from cabinet ministers, you have the chief minister and ministers who have specific security threats. Generally, an MLA will enjoy an X category security, which means that he will have one policeman along with around the clock and no, vehicle along with it. However, what has happened is since the Shinde government has come to power, initially because they split from the Thackeray faction of the Sena, there were fears initially, to be honest, when they had gone to Guwahati, that once they come to the city, they may be attacked. And at that point of time, even the central government had provided them security. And many believe that initially their fears were justified that they may be attacked, and hence all of them were provided Y+ escort category security. Now, Y+ escort means 5 policemen along with the escorting vehicle, which in this case is a bolero. But what a lot of people complained about is that it was believed that initially after a month or two, when they themselves formed the government, the security will not remain that big a concern as it was in the initial days. However, what has happened is that even after several security reviews, the security has not been scaled down, which means you have 40 MLAs and 13 MPs who are all enjoying Y+ security with a bolero vehicle, which is very unusual. Like in the past, so many politicians have not enjoyed as much security. There's a special protection unit, VIP security, which provides protection. So they had to kind of also dig deep to get the manpower and the vehicles. So for manpower, they had fresh hirings done. And for the police vehicles, it's a long procedure. You need to have a budget. It needs to be approved. So hence, in the top brass, a view was taken that, okay, we can use these new vehicles that we have just received. So in that sense, because in the past there had never been such a spike in security suddenly, they have needed many more vehicles than any time in the past in that sense.
And in the end, we talk about the air pollution in the financial capital. Now, usually, it is Delhi that makes headlines when it comes to this issue. And not just nationally, media outlets across the world report about Delhi's air quality index, which is one of the worst in the world, especially during winters. But recently, Mumbai has also come under the spotlight when it comes to this issue. For the past few days, its air quality has been worse than Delhi. For example, on Friday night, Delhi's AQI was 249, which is poor, but Mumbai's AQI was at 309, which comes under the very poor category. So what exactly is the reason behind it? In this segment, Indian Express's Amitabh Sinha, who writes on science and environment for the paper, joins us to explain. So Amitabh, why is this happening? Why has Mumbai's air suddenly become worse than Delhi?
So Mumbai's air is not particularly good. The amount of emissions of pollutants that you see in Mumbai is proportional to, or it's comparable to what you see in Delhi. I mean, Mumbai has lots of industries, similar number of vehicles, lots of people, all sorts of activities, all the activities that generate pollution. So Mumbai isn't doing anything different from any other city in the country. The only big advantage that Mumbai has, and that's the reason why Mumbai has a relatively clean air compared to a lot of other cities, is, Mumbai has this location advantage wherein it's right on the coast. And one of the things that happen there is basically Mumbai has a strong sea breeze most of the year round. And what that does is that it takes away the pollutants, it sweeps the pollutant away from the land.
So the giant sea breeze basically blows all the pollution away, and Delhi doesn't have that.
Delhi doesn't have that. And Delhi has some other peculiar disadvantages as well. Location disadvantages, which Delhi has, apart from the fact that it is landlocked and it's not near the sea. There are some other disadvantages as well. But in Mumbai's case, and it's true of some of the other coastal cities as well. I mean, it's not unique to Mumbai. It's similar things happen in Chennai as well. But in Mumbai, we see a similar amount of pollution being generated, but most of it getting swept away, because of which the air is relatively clean, and therefore we never hear about Mumbai's air quality problem. This year has been different, of course.
And what is the reason for that? Why isn't the sea breeze blowing away the pollution this time?
Okay, so the most crucial part of this equation, which is the wind, the patterns are distinctly different in Mumbai this year. And that's what the scientists who track air pollution in Bombay, they have been telling us. So there are two things that have happened. One is that the wind speed is distinctly lower than what is normally happens at this time of the year. And low wind speeds means the ability to sweep away the pollutants down. So that is one thing that has happened. Other thing is the change in the wind direction, the pattern in which the wind blows. So this scientist was telling me that usually what happens in Mumbai is few days, the breeze is directed towards the land. It's coming from the sea towards the land. Then after a few days, it turns direction and it moves away from the land. No, it goes towards the sea. Now, this movement away from the land is what actually takes away the pollutants. So for those 2 or 3, 4 days when it's coming towards the land, we do see some amount of accumulation of pollutants happening in Mumbai's air, and the air quality index goes up, meaning that the concentration of pollutants is high. But immediately after that, after 2-3 days, the wind direction changes and it starts to move towards the sea. And that's the time when the pollutants are swept away. And this scientist was telling me, usually this happens in a cycle of 3 or 4 days. So what is being observed this year seems that this pattern, which repeats after every 3-4 days, that has got delayed or sort of extended, which means that this cycle is happening not after 3-4 days, but after 7 to 10 days. So earlier it used to have only 3-4 days of pollutants. Now it's seeing 7 to 10 days of pollutants. So the concentration is heavy. At the same time, the wind speeds, even when it is blowing away from the land, is not what it used to be. So its ability is to take the pollutants away. That has also downgraded. So we see a lot of residual pollution piling up in Mumbai. So that is the sort of phenomena that seems to be happening. At least the initial observations point to this kind of thing. And of course, it's not completely settled. They are still trying to find out if there are some other factors that are influencing it. And we will probably get to know. But these are the initial signals or initial indications that point to what exactly is happening in Mumbai.
And are there more than usual construction activities going on in Mumbai as well?
It seems so. I mean, one of the indicators, clear indicators in that direction is the rise in the levels of PM10 that are being observed in Mumbai. Now, PM10 usually comes from the construction activities, the particles coming out from construction, because they are slightly larger in size. And PM10, that's a fairly good marker of, construction activity happening. While because the PM10 levels are also high, it does seem that there might be an increased amount of construction activity happening. And anecdotally, we know, there are some big projects going on in Mumbai this time. Metro, for example, is happening at quite a fast pace. The coastal road is being built, and there has been an increase in activity in the last few months. So that might be adding to the load as well.
And Amitabh, most of the times when we talk about pollution in India, we mainly concentrate on Delhi. That's what makes the biggest headlines. And now Mumbai, of course, because that's another big city and the financial capital of India. But are they the worst affected places in India? As in, how do their pollution levels compare to other cities and towns in the country?
No, many other places in the country would be much, much worse compared to Delhi or Mumbai in terms of pollutants. One of the things that happens across the country these days is construction. And in big cities, in large cities, you still see some amount of effort being made to at least cover it or, carry out construction in planned manner. In the smaller cities and towns, there are absolutely, construction is happening in a completely unregulated fashion. And also lots of industries. There are several small industrial towns which would probably be much, much more polluted than Delhi or Mumbai or any of the other large cities. One of the reason, of course, these are prominent cities, so we'll talk more about them. But the other thing, of course, is that these are the cities which have the most dense network of sensors. The equipment is mostly installed in these places. So you have large network of sensors in a place like Delhi. So you know exactly how much is happening. A few years ago when few sensors had been installed and the network was being expanded, Gwalior was supposed to be one of the worst polluted cities, worse than Delhi. And you will see across the country, there would be cities which would be very, very polluted compared to Delhi or Mumbai.
You were listening to Three Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.